What is a little bombshell your therapist dropped in one of your sessions that completely changed your outlook?
Experience 1.
It sounds to me like you are trying to convince yourself to stay with your girlfriend. I'm not so sure it should be so difficult.
At the time he said this, I remember it was like he said.
The earth is flat.
I thought he was crazy when he suggested relationships don't need to be difficult. Eventually, I started to realize I was trying to change myself in order to stay with this person rather than just being who I am. It took me 3 more months to finally break up with her, but from that day on, I vowed to never again abandon myself just to be with someone I had convinced myself was better than me. Experience 2. I was struggling with my alcoholism and we were discussing how I had been cutting back. She asked what I would consider success concerning my drinking. I said I wanted to get to a point where it wasn't interfering with my daily life. I wanted to just be able to have a glass of wine at holiday dinners or family gatherings. She simply asked me why. Why was it important for me to drink at those times? It was as if she'd turned on a light. Alcohol had always been a key ingredient in every family function for my entire life. When I smell bourbon, I think of my uncle. When I smell vermouth, I think of my dad. Alcohol ran through almost every happy childhood memory. But even more than that, I was very afraid of the explanation I'd have to give when family and friends asked why I wasn't having a drink. I had tried to quit before but failed. What if I admitted my problem only to fall off the wagon? When she asked why I didn't want to completely quit, it was the first time I saw that last part of the big picture. I'd be willing to drink myself to death in order to avoid being scrutinized or judged for possible future failures. That was the day I quit. I've been sobered since May 6, 2017. 2,407 days. Experience 3.
Why do you think you're lazy?
Then she listed off all the things she knows I'm doing for my family, my job, and my life. It kind of blew my mind when I struggled to come up with an example. She also described family dysfunction as water. Some families are messed up in a way that everyone can see the huge waves across the surface. Others are better at hiding it, but there's still a riptide that you can't see unless you're also in the water. Made me realize that trying to keep the surface from ever rippling doesn't erase what is happening underneath. Experience 4.
Stop trying to get everyone to agree. When you need everyone to agree, the least agreeable person has all the power.
Really changed my outlook on planning family events. I didn't really find out why my dad hated planning family events until after he died. Without him taking care of all the planning, it devolved into total chaos where no one could agree on anything. Bickering about where to go, what to do, when to go, how much it would cost, who would pay, and how much. I watched my dad stress about this stuff for most of my life until he decided one year that he had enough. He was going to decide where to go, what to do, and when to go, didn't give a crap how much it cost. He was going to pay for everything and for everyone. He then told everyone the plans and said,
You can come when I come, your choice.
Oddly enough, when you took the financials out of the equation, suddenly everyone was able to agree on where to go and were able to adjust their schedules so they could go. He died in 2013. We didn't go on another family trip with my siblings, their kids, our aunts, uncles, and cousins until just last year. Because no one could agree on anything. It was mostly a money thing. How much they thought they should pay compared to the other people going. Split evenly? Oh, no. So-and-so has 3 kids and it's just me and my husband, why should we pay the same as them? I knew my dad just said, screw it, and paid the entire thing, but I really didn't have the means to do that until recently. But I basically did what he did. I planned the whole trip, paid for it, and I and my family, plus my mom and her boyfriend, were going to go on vacation. I sent out invitations to everyone. Initially, I got some suggestions from a sibling and a cousin about where we should go and when. I cut that crap off immediately with,
"This is all done and paid for you. You can come or you cannot come. You are welcome, but if you can't make it, we understand and will miss you."
Magically, everyone was able to adjust their schedules and come for the free vacation. Experience 5.
You always talk about not wanting to do to your daughters what your mom did to you. You worry about it so much in every interaction you have ever had with them. But your children are 19 and 21 now. They are happy and healthy, and they trust you because you've never abused them in any way. So, I just want to validate for you that you really have broken that cycle of violence. You did that. And you should be proud of it. I'm proud of you for it.
Experience 6. I was constantly bringing up how I felt like a completely different person after my mom died, like there was a marked difference between before and after her death. But once, she was asking about my hobbies, I got really into describing all the things I loved to do or at least used to do before I got into a deep depression. She was like,
"Wow, you seem very passionate."
And I just sat there like, well, I mean, I can't change what I like to do, they're still fun to do. And it's like she knew when to take a step back, 'cause it was like, wow, I may be super depressed about my mom passing, but I'm still me. I'm still my passions, and those don't go away. IDK, maybe it only makes sense to be, but it started getting me back on track. Experience 7.
Your mom is never going to be the parent you want or need, so stop expecting her to be and be mad that she isn't.
Also,
people who are addicts tend to get frozen at the time they started abusing drugs or alcohol because their focus is their addiction and not developing as a person. So, a person who started drinking heavily at 13 and quit at 30 would behave a lot like a 13-year-old.
Experience 8.
Your mother was an absentee mother, so why would you think she would be anything other than an absentee grandmother to your child?
It made me lower expectations of the type of relationship my child would have with my mom. So now she's the fun grandma on FaceTime who sends presents but never shows up, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Experience 9. I told her I think I'm just a weak person. She drew a timeline of the last year on a whiteboard and asked me what significant things had happened. I had 7 unrelated traumatic events unfold in that year, 2019, and I just stared at it. She told me most people only go through 1 to 3 traumatic events of that magnitude in their whole lifetime, and I cried. I didn't look at it and think.
Well, life sucks for me.
I looked at it and was amazed at my strength. Life kept throwing horrors at me, and yet there I was sitting in therapy still fighting. I still doubt my strengths, but whenever I remember that moment, I realize I am made of steel. Experience 7. I've never really had friends. I've had colleagues and classmates and housemates and people who have hung out with me, but I never really felt close to any of them. And I did that thing you see on here sometimes. I stopped reaching out to see if I would be reached out to, and I wasn't, which I took as confirmation that they didn't want me around, or at the very least, that they wouldn't mind my absence. I was talking to my therapist about people I'd been close to in college, and she told me to pick one and talk about him. So, I did. After I shared some basic stuff like his name and his major, etc., and a couple of anecdotes, she asked me what else I knew about him. And I couldn't answer. It wasn't really a broadly applicable bombshell, but she said, "What else?" and I started crying because I realized that for as simple as the question was, my inability to answer spoke volumes. I've never had good friends because I've never been a good friend. I'm withdrawn and reserved, and I always made others do the work to drag me out, without ever extending my friendship in a meaningful way in return. If I wanted to have meaningful relationships with other people, I would have to build them. I'm still working on this, but I'm trying to make more offers and extend more friendliness to others in my daily life. Edit, sorry, I know this is late and the thread has probably died already, but I fell asleep shortly after writing this. I'm in Japan, and the time zone is very mismatched. Several comments have asked me what specifically I've changed, and I have two answers. One is to put myself in a position to find people with shared interests. A look at my profile will confirm that I love One Piece and manga in general. While I was here, I booked a tour to visit the statues of the characters erected in the artist's home prefecture of Kumamoto. The tour was public, and it ended up being 6 people in total. We bonded over our shared love of the material, and at the end of the tour, 2 people, a couple, invited me to join them for dinner afterwards. It was the first time I felt like I'd been invited to something because the inviter genuinely wanted to spend more time with me. I was elated. We talked for 3 hours about theories, favorite moments, real-world meanings and effects, and all sorts of things. The second is that I'm making an effort to ask more questions. I tend to talk without stopping when I get on a topic I'm passionate about. So, when I catch myself doing that, I try to stop myself naturally and ask the other person for their input or segue into a more personal topic. I want to learn more about these people so that I can be a better friend to them. I learned about them outside of their favorite arc or quote, and I'm glad I did. Experience 11.
You are not special.
I was having some very strong anxiety at the time, especially regarding other people. I felt like I was judged everywhere, like I couldn't go to the store, take the bus, or even go for a walk because I felt people were judging my every move, how I dressed, how was my hair, how I talked, even how I walked. Every stranger was thinking badly of me. It was scary as hell. I was telling her about this, and how I started avoiding going out, which was a problem because I had to go to college soon. And she looked me straight in the eyes and told me, "Name, I'm telling you this with all the care of the world, but you are not special. There is nothing that would make me think twice if we crossed in the street." Is harsh, and is exactly what I needed. All the anxiety didn't let me see that until she said it. OFC, she helped me in some other ways, but this really changed my life when she said it. I could go to college and be out because of it. Experience 12. I have a few.
If one of your loved ones had this problem, what would you tell them?
Boom! Self-compassion unlocked. Another one is regarding buried traumatic memories.
If you buried some crap in the yard, then later thought, "Oh, I wonder what that was," and dig it up, all you're going to find is some crap.
Edit, I remembered another great one.
Don't wait until you feel like yourself again, so you can enjoy the things you used to enjoy. Do the things you used to enjoy until you feel like yourself again.
Edit, another one. I've been to a lot of therapy.
No parent does a perfect job, so no parent does a complete job. Every adult needs to finish the job of parenting themselves.
Experience 13.
It seems like you have some kind of block in your brain.
Or something to that effect. I constantly struggled with motivation and accomplishing things, and regularly felt like I was paralyzed or stuck because my brain wasn't listening to me. It was amazing hearing someone put what I had been feeling into words and acknowledge that there was an issue beyond me needing to try harder. Of course, I later found out that the block was in fact a symptom of ADHD, and it almost completely disappeared when I started ADHD meds a few years later. Experience 14.
Is it your anxiety or hers?
Mic drop. Background: I have an overbearing mother who needs to know as much as she can about what I'm doing on my own time to sleep well at night, according to her. She basically treats me like a rebellious kid in a teen movie from the 90s, when I'm an independent, grown-ass woman approaching my mid-30s. At the time my therapist said this, I was 28-ish and panicking about an upcoming business trip. Not the trip itself, but her reaction to me leaving the state for a few days. As I was going down the list of texts I knew she'd bombard me with, my therapist dropped this. She permitted me to opt out of managing her fears like I had been doing for years. End result, I went on the trip without telling her a thing and have established a few more sanity-preserving boundaries since. Experience 15. That negative self-talk is just a part of you trying to help that needs some translation first. Like if I'm sitting there watching my 5th hour of TV and I keep hearing thoughts in my head about how I'm such a lazy piece of crap, then I need to translate that into the intention, which is that it is probably a good idea to stop and do something else now. Now I can think about the negative self-talk as being on the same team and wanting the best for me. Whereas before I spent a lot of time first trying to ignore negative intrusive thoughts, then tried radical acceptance, then tried mindfulness techniques to quiet them, but nothing really worked, and I continued to find them distressing. But now I can just stop and think, what is this negative thought really about and what is it really trying to tell me? So, I end up reflecting more than average, and once I translate the thought I understand it and find it less troubling. Experience 16. I was having non-stop panic attacks and derealization that lasted a month. It was like my brain was stuck in panic mode. I decided to find a therapist. In our first session, she said,
You know you don't have to suffer, right?
meaning I should schedule an appointment with a psychiatrist and get on medication. I scheduled one ASAP, and it truly saved my life. I don't know what I had been waiting for or delaying. Edit, I told my therapist I was used to pushing through depressive episodes and was hoping this would go away on its own as well. She pointed out that I could barely function or communicate with the way I was presenting myself, and that in order to get any benefit from therapy, I needed to physically regulate myself first. Experience 17.
Companion.
Not lover, not partner, not friend, etc. A companion. Turns out I am not as resilient as I and everyone thought I was, and even unbeknownst to me, I took the loss of my 2 cats during the pandemic harder than I could realize. Unexplainable heavy bouts of depression out of nowhere that I couldn't pull myself out. She mentioned that one word and it all snaps together and makes sense. Cat sitting a friend's cat now till she relocates to a place that can house it. Then I'm going cat and puppy adoption. So, they can be friends.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.